Morning, David.
Morning, John. Morning, John.
Morning.
Good morning, John. There's two Johns right here.
It's usually a lot of Davids, or it used to be a lot of Davids.
Yeah, I know.
Old-fashioned names.
Yeah.
John, good morning. Hey, John, on the golf tournament or outing, did you take any flyers over to the dunes yet? Because if not, I'm happy to do it.
I think I gave him some the last time I was out there, Tony. But I'll check with Chris, and I'll be going by there Friday. I can drop some off Friday. So
I can do it if you're going by there, fine. I just want to meet that new guy who's in charge because I got to talk to the F&B guy. I want to talk to him.
okay. All
Henry
right.
Hill, whoever it is. All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
John.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
You bet. Saves me one email today.
Hey, Tony.
It is 9 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the December 9th meeting of the Captiva Community Panel. The first thing we'll do is our introductions and roll call. Bruce McDonald is not here. Yes, he is. Bruce McDonald is here.
Here.
Good morning, Bruce. There you are. Okay, Sandy Stillwell Youngquist.
Here.
Thank you, Sandy. Marguerite Ty Maville. I don't see her. Ken Suarez. I don't see him. John Wade, he's here.
Here.
Hi, John. Okay. Michael Bennett, he advised me he's won't be able to attend. He's engaged. John Rosen.
Here.
John Jensen.
Here, David.
Linda Laird. Tony Lappy.
Here.
And David Mintz is here. So we have a quorum. Some of our members are on vacation between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we wish everybody a good holiday season. First thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from November 11th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes if people have read them?
I'll move it.
I'll
Okay,
second.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Nay. Okay, minutes are approved. First thing on our agenda is a report from Sergeant Rich Zeltman, who is with us. I see him.
Hi, David. Good morning.
Right.
Just a couple of tips I'm going to go over. But first, there weren't any major or notable incidents this past month to really go over as far as any criminal activity, which is a good thing. I think the deputies out here are doing a great job of making sure that our presence is known, that any type of criminal stuff out here is not going to be accepted. But because we're coming up to Christmas time and New Year's, I just want to make the panel know and your viewers that, be responsible when going to these parties. As you remember from last year, we had a car accident involving a impaired driver at New Year's last year. So that type of activity is not going to be accepted. And, you just be careful when you go to these parties, and, just remember the 4 Ds when driving. It's drinking, drugs, distracted driving, and the fourth one being drowsiness. You know, these late night parties, you start to drive home. If you live, especially if you live off the island, you know, it's a long trip, and it's easy to fall asleep behind the wheel, and we don't want that because it could be tragic. And if you've been watching the news lately, it's sad to see what's been on the news lately. So we don't want that. One other thing I would like to point out is that the school bus cameras are up and running. So you see a school bus with the red lights on, you'll just make sure that you stop behind the school bus, or else you're looking at a $225 ticket in the mail.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have anything else unless you have some questions for me.
Okay, Tony.
Shout out to Rich and his whole crew. They were fabulous, both on the tree lighting and on the fish concert. You guys did a great job. Just thanks again.
You're welcome, Tony.
Are there any questions for Sergeant Zeltman?
Is the speed monitor along the school zone still in operation? Is going to be in the operation for the foreseeable future?
Yes. Yeah, and those are camera run, and you speed through the school zone, expect a ticket in the mail.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for Sergeant Zeltman? Ken, any questions from the audience for Sergeant Zeltman?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant. Short reports are great. It means there's not a lot to report on, which is much appreciated.
Welcome.
And have a very good holiday season.
You too.
Jeff Powell, our Captiva Fire District Fire Chief.
Good morning. Well, I'll keep mine short too then, since you guys like the short reports. So I don't have a whole lot to report other than the referendum is scheduled for February 10th, and it has been approved to be held on Captiva at the CCA site over there, as opposed to going to Sanibel at the school. So that is good news. They agreed to move this one up here. And, don't count on that for future elections. As far as general elections go, you still have to go to Sanibel, but they were able to move the referendum special election to Captiva, so that will be held February 10th as of right now. I do not have any other update from the Rauschenberg Foundation on the sale to share, though, as of today. So
Anything? That was a very short report, Jeff.
you're welcome.
Are there any questions for the fire chief? Any
Hey,
questions?
I had a question,
Yeah, Bruce.
Jeff. Hey, will there be, that's obviously an important vote there. Will there be advanced voting enabled for that?
Like for mail-in, you mean? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know the specifics from the supervisor of elections on that portion of it yet. All that communication does come directly from them, but there is that similar option.
Okay.
It's like normal voting. So that's why we
Okay,
have
good.
to have it in advance, because they've got to mail the stuff overseas and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is this for registered voters or property owners?
registered voters.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
only registered voters who are registered on Captiva.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff from the audience, Ken?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, have a great day. Have happy holidays, everyone. Be safe.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
CEPD, is Brighton with us today? And if he's not with us, I know John Wade is with us. So I don't see Brighton on the screen.
I don't
John?
believe Brighton is with us this morning.
Okay, did you want to give any update or any report, or do you just want to pass it along?
Keeping with the short report trend, I guess I'll say we had our meeting yesterday. We elected new officers for the year, and with regard to the beach renourishment update. I'm sure everyone's aware they have moved on. They are actually currently working south of Blind Pass in Sanibel now. And the dredging component is over, and we are moving into the final phase of just trying to get the ropes and bollards situated with a dune vegetation plan up and running to present to the public in January. And that's where we're at.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wade?
The rope and bollard plan, does that identify the areas or that people are supposed to walk over to access the beach from their houses?
Correct. Yes, Jay.
Okay, and
Right now-
is that just going to be a matter of pathways that you're going to create for people to follow?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
David, there is one question from the audience.
Go ahead.
What happened with the issue with the property tax bills for the prior beach renourishment assessment?
That's a good question. I have put in my own submission to find out what went wrong with that with Brighton and the administrative staff and the treasurer. And there were no answers yesterday or no reply from my request. So I wish I had a better answer for you. My understanding from the limited research that I did was that there were a couple of dates that were not met with regard to the newspaper ads. And secondly to that, the ads that were placed were not put in the right section of the newspaper. So I believe it was a technicality that was unknown by Brighton, but I can't speak more than that about it.
Okay. I can just say that I got a tax bill and I submitted the full amount in the tax bill, and that had approximately half of the CEPD amount in the initial bill. I sent it to the Lee County tax collector. And then I received a second bill with an increased assessment associated with CEPD. So I started to fill out a check just for the difference between the original tax bill and add I think it was $147 extra for CEPD. And then I got a thing in the mail that day rejecting my initial check on the grounds that it didn't cover the full tax bill. So I ripped it up and I sent a new check with the full amount for CEPD and a new tax bill, and hopefully it'll be accepted. So I suspect that people on Captiva who submitted their initial payments based on the initial tax bill may get that check and that tax bill rejected. And then they will get a second one with new dates upon which you have to submit the taxable amount.
Oh, yeah,
I think what
I didn't
happened
know about
was-
that. I
Yeah,
didn't
I
know
think
about
what
that.
happened was it was the people that were on the installment plan from the last beach renourishment that were paying over the 7 years. Because this last bill was only half of the installment for the particular year. So if you had paid your beach renourishment assessment in full for the last beach renourishment, you wouldn't have a problem. I think it's only the people that were paying over a period of time.
Yeah. But the tax collector was fine, explained it, and after I called and I spoke to Brighton, and he was trying also to figure out what went wrong, but it looks like John is right, it's just a technicality, and people will just have to figure out how best to submit the additional amount for their installment plan assessment. That's all. Does that sound?
It's interesting because yeah, I was just looking yesterday. My check that I sent in November hasn't cleared yet, and I got another bill like you did, and I was thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, you will get that initial check back in the mail at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, so just make sure you pay the second one in time so it doesn't add the amount. In other words, if you don't pay it by some date in December, they will then up the amount because it's the cutoff date.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what ended up happening though is you got a discount for paying in November that you can't get now.
No, they carry the discount into December for your bill. I looked that up.
Oh, did they? Okay. Okay.
Well, there's no damage, there's no harm. It's just an extra check you got to write, and you got to recognize the other one won't be cashed.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else, John? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. SCCF update.
Hey everyone, of course, when everyone else is quick, I've got a bunch to talk about. So it's not short, but I'll try to make it fast at least. Um, Locally, we're gearing up for legislative session, so there's a lot of movement there, but everything's moving through committees, so nothing's set in stone. But just get ready for a pretty active session. There's a lot on the back burner right now that I assume is going to come to a head. More pressing is really the status of the lake and the estuary. We are 9 days out of hurricane season, barely into the dry season, and we're already experiencing a minimum flow level violation. So that's indicative that the estuary is undergoing harm that will take to the tune of 5 years to recover from. So this is really serious. This is something that the Army Corps is legally obligated to not commit twice in a 5-year period. And there's really no answers other than they just need to give us more water. We're not at a position from where we're standing, where we need to be making these really hard decisions and doing cutoffs. We're still well within a lake level where we can be receiving water. So that's going to be the push from us and other partners is to try to get the South Florida Water Management District to understand that we really need to save the estuary now and not cause harm on the off chance of having more water later in the season. So I've been meeting with governing board members, and I'm planning on attending the meeting on Friday. But if anyone has the ear of anyone on the governing board or wants to drive to West Palm Beach and make comments with me, well, I'll be over there on Thursday. And at a federal level, there's a lot going on too. So I want to call attention to three things. The first being the proposed oil drilling plan in the Gulf. This plan went live, the proposed plan went live a couple weeks ago. We currently have a comment or a campaign directing people to make comments. So if you get our action alerts, you've probably already got this sitting in your inbox. You can go to our website for all of these as well and see opportunities to make those comments. But this would open up new oil leases in the Gulf, 100 miles or so off of Sanibel and Captiva. Really not something that we want to risk our beaches and our economy with. So I would encourage everyone to make comments against the oil drilling plan for the Gulf. Also, we have a federal effort to roll back protections for both the definition of the waters of the United States and the Endangered Species Act. So the Endangered Species Act one would remove critical habitat protections. So changing destruction of habitat from equating a take of an animal. So basically saying you have to go out and individually kill an endangered species for it to be considered a violation of the Endangered Species Act, which is a huge shift from what we have been operating under for the past, I don't know, for the past a long amount of time. And it would severely impact our ability to protect a lot of these environments. So I would encourage everyone to make comments in opposition to those changes. And we have put out an action alert on that one as well. So again, that'll be in your inbox if you sign up for our action alerts, or you can go to our website to find that. And then the Waters of the United States definition is an attempt to make a regulation codifying the recent Sackett decision that removed a lot of protections for wetlands and other adjacent waterways from those flowing waters. So we haven't put out an action alert on that. That's coming out this week. So keep an eye out for that and go to our website. But all of these, I think, are things that we should be, as a community, opposing because they're severely going to impact our natural resources and our communities that rely on them. And that's all I got.
It is a lot. Ken, could you, Matt, we're going to ask you to prepare with Ken, our administrator, a draft of a letter that would come from the panel on whichever you think are the priorities, so that we have something that we can review and then send to the appropriate sources, rather than as individuals, but to do it as, to bring it to the panel, let the panel vote on it, and then send it out from the panel if they so desire. But Ken, could you just work with Matt to put something together for the panel on at least one or two of those issues that he thinks are most important? Whether-
Sure. Matt, what's the time frame for getting some of these in? Can we do it after the next meeting, or do we need to move faster?
It would be great a lot of these are on 30-day windows and they're 10 days into them. So the next meeting probably is going to be a little quick. We can talk offline too about timing and I'll
Okay.
reach out to you.
So I may circulate something to the panel for approval before the next meeting.
That'll probably be necessary.
Thank you, gentlemen. Tony, you have a question for Matt? You're on.
Yeah, well, and also to when this letter goes out, are our names on this, or it just says from the Captiva Community Panel?
We can choose at that time. I would recommend our names are on it as the members of the.
Exactly, yeah.
At the letter, we can make that decision.
We usually try to list the panel members' names at the bottom so that people know who's there.
Thanks, Scott. I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
And I would encourage people not on the panel, but still that feel passionate about these issues who are listening to go and fill out their own comments as well.
Right. There are 42 people on this call right now as we're speaking, so they certainly heard you, Matt. Any questions for Matt other than Tony's? Ken, any questions from the audience?
No, there are none.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
County code enforcement update. I'll do this quickly. As I mentioned last meeting, Ken did a draft of a letter that'll go out to everybody in Captiva, just reminding them of the Captiva codes. We're still working on that. I will try to have something to everyone before the January meeting so we can review it at the January meeting. The second thing is that the county did cut back the vegetation all along Captiva Drive, so that people can bicycle and walk, except there are two spots right near the Turner Beach, which has overgrown over the shoulder, and maybe one or two other spots. And I'm just going to speak to the county to see if they could clean those up. But the county's been very responsive in cleaning up the shoulders pursuant to our code. One other thing I want to mention, there's been a rumor spreading around that I just want to deal with. There was a rumor that Sanibel was going to lower the speed limit from Rabbit Road to Blind Pass Bridge from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. And there were people on Captiva that were concerned about it. They came up to me. I checked with Sanibel. That does not seem to be a reality. There was some discussion someone raised at one of the meetings, and like everything happens on social media, it takes off and then people think it's accurate. But in fact, there is no realistic attempt or likelihood that they're going to be lowering the speed limit on Sandcap Road from Rabbit Road to Blind Pass Bridge. So we could just eliminate that as an issue. They may be placing a temporary stop sign at Rabbit Road where people cross with the bicycles. There was a study done, from my understanding, about the issues of safety for the bicyclists and for wildlife at that place. And so you may see a stop sign as part of a test, as part of a I guess to review to see whether it's necessary. And so you may see a stop sign at Rabbit Road in the next few weeks. And then they will have to assess whether or not they want to make that a permanent stop sign or not. But that's, I think, livable. But the notion of lowering the speed limit upsets some people, but it's just not part of the reality here. So we don't have to worry about that. Any questions about code issues as we sit here today? Okay. Next thing is the County South Seas redevelopment legal update. There is really nothing to update you on. I think the courts are recognizing the legal impact of Thanksgiving and Christmas, and nothing seems to be happening. There are 4 legal matters that are pending in the courts, and we are waiting on the courts to move forward with them. The first, as you know, is the decision that the community prevailed on, limiting density of South Seas to 912 units. That is still the law. That is the decision. It's under appeal by South Seas and the county, and we're waiting upon the court to issue dates for oral argument. At this point, I'm not even sure we have a panel of judges to hear it. The appeal of the decision amending the code that allowed this to happen in the first place, that's under appeal. We're still waiting for the courts to assign a panel and to set a date for oral argument. That hasn't happened. The petition for a writ of certiorari, basically invalidating the rezoning that took place at the county a couple of months ago. That's been submitted by virtually all the associations at South Seas and RLR and the Civic Association. That's been submitted to the court. The petition is pending. We're waiting for the judge to review it and to set a date for the county and for South Seas to respond to that petition for a writ of certiorari, which would invalidate the rezoning. And then there's the last one where South Seas has sued the CCA under the Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act because they believe that the 912 decision, when the Protect Captiva Coalition said that that would set 912, including hotels, they thought that wasn't true. It is our belief it's absolutely true. We filed for a motion for sanctions and for attorney's fees, and we also asked that case to be transferred to Judge Schenko. The court the initial judge still has that case, and we're waiting to hear whether she's going to keep it or transfer it to Judge Schenko, and that case is still up in the air. That is the essence of the legal matters. There are 4 legal matters, as I said, and we're waiting on the courts at this point, as, by the way, is the county and South Seas are also waiting to see what the courts are going to do. Any questions on that?
Yeah, David, I had a question. Where do we stand from, I've had a few people in the community come and ask me around status of our legal reserves, and can you guys comment on that?
Yeah, I can comment on it. Captiva Coalition has spent approximately $1.2 and $1.3 million. We'll be approaching $1.3 million in legal costs shortly. The donations and contributions, which have been incredibly generous, have reached about 1.5 million. So we have about probably around $200,000 in reserve, as you said. As we approach dates for oral argument in these 4 cases, and the appellate lawyers will be, reviewing the briefs, getting prepared for oral argument, there may be some motions that have to be filed, and maybe some additional briefing. So we will, Bruce, have to request some additional funds.
Okay.
We don't do that until we really need to do that. And every time we request them, people are incredibly generous and they come through. But that's where we stand at this point.
Okay. I mean, I would just, a lot of people like to get their charitable donations made before the fiscal year ends. And so it may be a good idea to shoot out something shortly saying that, and giving people an option to contribute now and get their deduction this year.
I will recommend that to the legal team, and I think that's a good recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's charitable. We talked about this earlier, that this is not a deductible as a charitable gift. We started this way back in the day. Am I correct, David?
Oh, it is charitable.
No, it's charitable, Tony.
Yes.
But it's not a 501c3.
It is. It's going to the Captiva the Civic Association Foundation. It is a tax deductible deduction.
So what you're saying, because I asked this question earlier and I was told no. I was saying if I have a DAF account, which gives money to 501c3s, it can go there.
The last time, initially,
Yes.
right at the beginning, it was not. Over time, with the accountants and the attorneys, it was determined that it is a tax deductible donation.
Thank
So
you for the clarification, because I'm still old school, I don't remember too much, but the long-term memory is good, but not the short-term.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
thanks for clearing that up.
You may
Okay,
want to
thank-
refile your tax return.
yeah,
No, I just wanted to make sure because I was still hanging up on the old.
yes, it is tax deductible.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. You're on Zoom. You're on mute, Tony. You're on mute. There you
Thanks,
go.
Bruce, for bringing that up, because up to this point in time, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was that way, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you can get your deduction in between now and December 31st.
Well, if it's coming out of a DAF, it doesn't make any difference.
That's true. That's true.
True.
There's a comment I'd like to make to follow up on what Bruce is saying. For those of you that have high adjustable gross incomes this year, it will be more valuable this year than it will be next year, because there's a change in the tax law that's going to get a haircut to charitable deductions in 2026. So if you feel more charitable in 25, take advantage of the little break you're going to get this year versus next year. So um, uh, just a point of information to follow up on what Bruce said.
Okay, so I am encouraging everyone listening and on the panel if to make a contribution to the Protect Captiva tax deductible legal fund
Yeah.
if you need to do so prior to December 31st. And if you have a DAF, we don't care when you do it.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Speaking about money, next thing on the agenda is public records update. I am spending a lot of time because the request for public records, which I still don't understand why they're making this request, but South Seas made this request as to CEPD. They made this request to the panel. I believe they made this request to the fire department, and I know they made this request to the Sanibel City Council, to the city of Sanibel, and it is burdensome. They wanted to have all documents that referenced South Seas or had any reference to South Seas or Timbers, but primarily South Seas, back to, I believe it was 2021, January 2021. It turns out that there were a lot of correspondence from the panel to the county and to various other, to some other places regarding the sewer project back in 2021. And they were not really related to South Seas, other than the question of whether South Seas would be included in the sewer project. And connecting to Donex in Sanibel.
Yeah.
That time, we actually had a member of the panel who had an email address that included these.
It included what, David?
We had a panel member whose email address included the words South Seas. So if we're looking at every email that included the words South Seas and that had to be produced, we had to go through each email to see whether or not he who had a South Seas email address was on those correspondence. So to make a long story short, we have at this point produced, after review by the attorneys, all the documents that I could find at this point, and that Ken Goodham could find, that had any reference to South Seas, Timbers, or any of the keywords that they were looking for. But in the process of doing that, our attorneys wanted to review everything because they wanted to make sure that everything that was sent was properly sent, and also did not in any way cause a problem for the panel. So having said that, we have paid the attorney everything that they have billed for up to, except the last bill, which is $2,200.07. But the total bill that went to the attorneys for this public records request came up to, including that, I added it all up, came up to $18,997. And I'm just letting you know that So it's approximately a $20,000 bill to have our attorneys review and participate and produce what turned out to be almost 1,000 or more than 1,000 documents to South Seas as part of the public records request. That is far less than some other organizations, but nonetheless, I just wanted everybody to know that. I suspect it's at the end of the day at this point for that. The letter from the attorney for South Seas suggested, at least in one letter, that they may decide to litigate this issue, to actually file a complaint to see if we produced all the documents that reference South Seas. I don't know if they'll do that, but I'm just letting you know that in one of the letters to the attorney, they suggested that they may litigate this. Again, I don't know what they're looking for or why they're doing it, other than to basically some sort of, I believe, in my opinion, retribution for the panel's opposition to the increased density in building heights. And I think that was true for, I know, the city of Sanibel, et cetera. As people remember, they had asked for documents relating to any correspondence with any individual who testified, or almost any individual who testified before the county. They backed off on that request, but that was their initial request. But the reason I'm raising this is I just want you to know that it's going to come to close to $20,000 in legal fees associated with this.
David, does this mean any emails I sent to Bob Walters I've got to go find?
Only the answer may be yes to that, and that's what I've been looking for, and that's what
No.
Yeah.
It's not. If you were acting on, it has to do with official panel business. If you sent something personally to Bob Walter, that's not covered. And in fact, I would argue, and I didn't win this one, but I will argue it again if they come back, we shouldn't have to comply with at this level anyway. We're
Right.
not a public agency. We're not a government body.
Good. We're not. We're trying to be as cooperative as possible without, I mean, you have to understand there's a possibility of litigation, even if their litigation has no merit. And so I think what a court is going to look at is whether we made a good faith effort to respond to a public information request. I agree with Ken that we're not a public body, but we have bylaws that touch on this issue. And we've always treated our organization as a sunshine organization to the extent that it's possible and to function. So we're trying to act in good faith. And I think we should continue to do that, but I think there's a limit to how much we'll do and how much we'll spend. So I think we're at that limit at this point, I believe, and I just wanted people to know where we are. I don't know, maybe CEPD, John, you can tell us where you are in your situation, or I can get more information from the city of Sanibel also at some point.
I have no further comment on it. They have stopped reaching out to us.
Okay.
Last I think we corresponded with them was September.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Well, that's where we stand at this point. I'm just giving a report. We have an obligation to pay the legal bills. I think before any other legal bill is paid, I think we have to have a full discussion with the panel and really take up Ken's view of this, which is that we shouldn't be doing anything more than what we've done, and maybe we shouldn't even have done as much as we've done. Is that fair? Does everybody follow me on that?
Yeah.
Any comments about that?
Mm.
Sandy, Tony, Jay, John?
Nope, sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the Rauschenberg property. People saw the movie Casablanca, where you just wait and you wait and you wait. And that's what this is going on. We know that the bids, the second round of bids have been submitted. The Rauschenberg Foundation, and I'm hearing this from a number of sources unofficially, we're supposed to meet the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. The Board of Trustees was to meet to decide on what bid they were going to accept and review that. That meeting did not take place. It was right before Thanksgiving, sort of not surprising. It didn't take place. And they're supposedly going to schedule another meeting shortly to review the bids that have been submitted to them. My understanding is there are really only there's 3 bids that I believe were submitted, and the fire department's bid for half the property for the 9.81 acres. But there were only 3 bids for the full property. My understanding is one of those bidders have recommended that it goes to the quote community investor, and they only want it if that the community investor can't perform. So there's really only 2 bids from what I understand pending before the Rauschenberg Foundation. And we're hopeful that.
I'm sorry, David, could you repeat that again? I didn't follow. So
Okay, so
there's only 2 viable bids, isn't that of what you're saying?
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying there were 4. And I'm telling you this not because I have official information, but it's what I've gathered from the various discussions I've had with people. And my understanding is the fire department bid 22 or $24 million for the 9.81 acres, but that's less than half the property. And I don't think the Rauschenberg Foundation is looking to sell half the property. I think they want to sell it in one piece. Then there was another bidder, a developer, who submitted a bid, but during the course of that bid process made it apparent that that developer would rather see it go to the community investor so that the community can preserve as much of the property as possible. And so even though there's a bid pending from a different developer, they are encouraging the foundation to accept the bid of the community investor. And then there's a bid of the community investor. And then I believe there was a bid also in from South Seas, but I don't have definitive information on that, but that's what I've been told. So what it looks like is there are really only 2 viable options for the foundation. One is the community investor that we've been talking about, and we had a long discussion last meeting. We're not going to do that again. And South Seas. My understanding is that the 2 bids are basically similar in dollar amounts. And so we are hopeful that there would be no reason in the world why the foundation wouldn't accept a bid from the community, which incorporates the fire department's bid. Is that clear, Jay?
Yeah, but these bids have been in how long now?
Well, they've been in about 3 weeks now, I guess, and maybe a little longer. And there was a first round and then a second round. And my understanding is that there was not going to be a third round. They were going to decide based on what they had. There's always the possibility they will seek a third round. I don't know. I don't know. My understanding is that the Board of Trustees of the foundation believe they have to do due diligence and to maintain their fiduciary duty in deciding which bid to accept. I don't know what that means in this sense that they have no obligation to take the highest bid or any particular bid. They're a private organization. So I know that they've received hundreds or well over 100, maybe 200 emails from individuals around this area and asking that they accept the bid of the community investor. I know they've received letters from artists that have been part of the foundation's fellowship program or residency program. So I think they are fully aware of the community's interest and in preserving this property or as much of it as possible. And so they just have to make a decision at this point.
Well, as far as you know, David, does the community investor bid have any contingencies in
No.
it that would make it unattractive.
No.
It's
The answer is no.
Hmm.
The answer is no. And I don't know whether any of the other bid has any contingencies like rezoning or et cetera, et cetera. But there is nothing in the community investors bid that that requires any changes in the codes or the plans or any contingencies that I know, and that there was a commitment made to the foundation that there would be no effort to rezone the property or do anything that would require a county approval.
okay, so they're just sitting on the bids right now. We don't really know what they're doing with them. And
Right.
and what the next step's going to be. I guess is the net of what you're saying, David.
I think if it was up to the brokers who are handling this, the next step would be to accept one of the bids and let the do it and go from there and then sign the contract and go forward. But I think that the Board of Trustees may have a different view of how they want to handle this than the broker does at this point. Yeah. It may be just the Christmas and Thanksgiving season and that people are traveling and they're just not around. I mean, it could be, you don't want to read too much into it.
Sure.
You know, I would have hoped all along that the Rauschenberg Foundation would have come to the community before they put it up on the market and give us an opportunity to work with them on this and figure out ways to finance preserving it. They chose not to do that. They chose to basically auction the property publicly. Maybe they did that to determine what the value of the property is. That seems to be the way people do things with properties of this magnitude. They put it out there, they see what the bids are, and that sets the value, rather than they themselves setting the value at the outset. It doesn't seem out of line from what people say happens. That's what.
Hey, thanks, David.
Any other questions?
Mm-mm.
I think we just hope they do the right thing at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing, Ken, anything from the audience on any of this?
No, there's not.
Okay. And next we have the nominating committee. Okay, so we have to vote on the two panel members, to replace John Jensen and Tony Lappy, which will be hard to do, but we have to do that. And there were 4 individuals that submitted their resumes. There was Jay Brown, there was Bob Brando from Captiva Cruises, there was Bob Adler, and there was Christopher Kemp. And those 4 nominees were submitted to the nominating committee, and the nominating committee made a recommendation to the panel of 2 for their 2 nominees. And the nominating committee recommend that the panel vote for Jay Brown, basically because he's running 2 and chairing 2 committees and because everybody loves him. And the other is Bob Rando, who's been looking to be a member of the panel for a number of years. And he's also a business, runs a very important business owns an important business on Captiva. And if Tony's leaving, I think they felt to have another important business for Captiva would be very valuable. So the nominating committee has recommended Jay Brown and Bob Rando be appointed or voted to the panel. I have spoken to Chris Kemp. He was actually on the cruise, on the Welcome Back cruise, and he understood exactly why Jay and Bob were recommended, and he's going to continue to participate and work with the panel, and I'm going to work with him on a particular committee, and we're going to involve him in the panel, and he will, if he's not elected now, he could be a panel member in the future, and the same thing goes for Bob Adler. However, the panel is not required to follow the recommendations of the nominating committee. They could vote for any of the 4 that they, any two of the four, any two of the four that they so choose. So the panel has two votes here. You submit two names, and so two names out of the four people, and that gets submitted, and whoever gets the most votes of whatever two people get the most votes, they then become the panel members for the next 3-year term. So the bylaws require that we vote in writing. So I want to follow the bylaws. So this is what I'm going to ask people to do. And I spoke to Ken before the meeting. Ken, the email that Ken can receive emails from is the Captiva Community Panel at gmail.com. The Captiva Community Panel, not the Captiva Community Panel at gmail.com. And I would ask that each of you before the end of this meeting or during this meeting, just send two names to Ken at Captiva Community Panel at gmail.com. And you send two of the four names, either Jay Brown, Bob Randall, Bob Adler, or Chris Kemp. Again, the nominating committee asks that you vote for Jay Brown and Bob Randall, but you're not required to do that. But just send two names to Captiva Community Panel at gmail.com at some time during this meeting. You could do it right now if you want. I don't know if you can do it while you're online with us here, but if it gets done during the meeting, we'll announce it before the end of the meeting. If not, we'll just let people know the meeting. You can use your phone to do that.
Hey, David, how do you spell Bob Randall's last name?
Rando.
And David,
Yes.
I have a question for you because they all sound really like they would be good. Is there any thought of adding members?
We can talk about that, but to do that, we would have to amend the bylaws, which is a somewhat cumbersome process. It's done publicly. We have a number of meetings. You got to do it. You got to announce it. You got to get it out. But we can definitely discuss it, and we could put it on the agenda for next meeting if you'd like to do that.
Okay, because they all sound great, actually, and the more the merrier. I think if you get into 20 people, it gets unmanageable, but having a couple more doesn't bother me a bit.
Okay, I will on the agenda. We can have discussion at the next meeting.
Thank you.
So everybody's going to send two names to Captiva Community Panel at gmail.com. And I just want to, on behalf of the panel, thank John Jensen. Contributions and service to the panel for these years, many, many, many years. And obviously to Tony Lappy, who's been, and again, these two gentlemen will be hard to replace. John, I don't know what your plans are for the future on Captiva, but you and I should talk because there may be a way you can stay involved with the panel if you so desire. And Tony and I have already spoken, and Tony's going to be on some of our key committees, and he will continue to work with the panel even during his 1-year hiatus off the panel.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to stay involved in Captiva for sure. Even though I won't be on the panel, I'd love to help any way I can.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Keep getting rid of those iguanas, John.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, how's it looking? The iguanas out on Captiva.
I'd say it's maybe down a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I talked to Alfredo. I think he's working 4 days a week now, 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah, and I believe the CPD got a big grant for the eradication of the iguanas. John, do you know any amounts?
$500,000. It's not all for iguanas, but we can use it as much as we possibly can. So that's great news. We did get the FWC to join and approve up to $500,000 for iguana eradication.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Great.
Right now, I believe the budget is for about 60, maybe 70,000. So again, there's a lot of room to increase that.
All right.
Um,
Great.
I also was finding Cuban tree frogs, tree toads, whatever. On my property, two of them, which I eradicated because I was told I should, in that they kill, the dogs eat them and die and things like that, and they're invasive. So I don't know if other people have seen these,
Mm.
but I understand they're dangerous to animals, and we shouldn't touch them in general.
Well, to get back to the subject at hand, I'd like to thank
I
John
lost the internet again.
for all the effort they put forth over the years while they were on the community panel. Thank you both and look forward to your continued involvement over the next year at least and beyond. Thank you both.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience, Ken?
David, could you just repeat that email one more time, please?
Captiva Community Panel at gmail.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And there are no other comments.
Okay.
David and Ken, I have a question. I'm on my phone and I have trouble with my email. Would I be allowed to send my names by text?
Yes, you can send your names by text as long as it's in writing. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I have to do that. Thank you.
But it goes to him.
It goes to, I will send it to Ken.
That'll be fine.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Stormwater Committee update, Mr. Brown.
I was unsuccessful in getting an update from Phil Gillaby from Lee County. Made several attempts to get an update on what progress has been made over the past month and have been unable to do that. So all I can report is what I knew at this time last month, that the consultants were fast completing the model of stormwater flows throughout Captiva, which in turn would allow them to develop the problem areas and then start developing solutions to each of the problem areas. At the time of that last review, he expected to have a first draft of the study completed by April. So again, unfortunately, unable to get an update from him as to progress that's been made the last time.
Okay. And Jay, while we got you, Wastewater Committee.
Yeah, on wastewater, a lot more to report there. Dave, we have set up a working group, a Sanibel Captiva working group to pursue next steps on stormwater. On Sanibel side, the two main people are Steve Chappell and Dana Sousa. And then on our side, it's David Mintz, myself, and Mike Bennett. We had a lengthy meeting on November 24th, where we reviewed everything that we knew to date about the project. And basically, I'll try to sum up where we are and what I think the next steps are following that meeting. Originally, the plan that we were pursuing was that Donax would process wastewater from the unsewered portion of Captiva. We had done a consulting study with Kimley Horn to design the Captiva collection system, which had three main components to it: a pressurized main sewer line running down Captiva Drive, a village gravity system along all of the side streets in the village, and then an individual home by individual home connection, pressurized connection to the main sewer line for houses outside of the village area. And the total cost of that collection system at the time was projected to be $20 million, or approximately $30,000 a property, which fit well with a survey that we had done to gauge community interest in the project, wherein we sent out polled all the property owners on Captiva as to would they be in favor of a centralized sewer system with Donax processing if the average cost per property was about $30,000 a property, which is roughly what $20 million works out to be. And in that poll, we had 2-to-1 support for the property. So far, so good. Then Sanibel requested that 3 studies be done. First, before the plan was finalized, first they wanted a study to determine that their existing piping would be able to handle all of Captiva's flows from the new Captiva collection system. Secondly, they wanted a study to determine whether or not their existing methods of disposing of processed wastewater would be adequate, or would some additional investment have to be made to handle the extra processed wastewater. And then third, they wanted a study to determine whether or not examine what the economic impacts of Donax processing Captiva wastewater would be, how that would affect their economics, and whether or not Captiva residents should pay some sort of buy-in fee in recognition of all the prior investment that had been made by Sanibel people to create all the central sewer infrastructure that they now had in place. It took 2 years, but we completed those 3 studies. Unfortunately, first we found that Sanibel's existing piping was not adequate to handle flows from South Seas, and that would require a $14 million expenditure to beef up the piping to carry our wastewater. Then, secondly, they determined that an additional deep injection well would be required to handle the additional processed wastewater, which they looked at 6 or 7 different sites and made a recommendation that a deep well would have to be installed near the Donax facility at a cost of $25 million. So then the third study, the Raftellus study, Raftellus found that Sanibel handling our wastewater would actually improve the economics of their system and would not result in any additional needed rate increases of any kind. So the Raftellus study concluded that there should not be a buy-in fee, which was one bit of good news that we had out of the 3 studies. The net of the 3 studies is that whereas we thought we had a cost of $20 million, we're also going to get tagged for $14 million for an additional pipe to carry our wastewater to Donax, and $25 million for an injection well. While this is going on, we also have Kimley Horn re-estimating their original costs for that they did in 1971 for the Sanibel collection system. They redid all their original costs and dramatically increased the cost of our collection system from $20 million to $36 million. A key component of that was there had been no provision made in the original estimate of the Captiva collection system cost for a pipe running from Turner Beach to Sea Spray on Sanibel, which is about an $8 million charge. And it seemed as they re-reviewed the project that that cost should really be included. So that resulted in an additional 8 million. Then they also re-examined a number of the assumptions they made on the force main on Captiva Drive, and they dramatically increased the force main cost. The net result of this is the collection system, which was originally projected to be $20 million, rose to $36 million for the reasons I just stated. So we have 36 million, 16 million more than anticipated for the collection system. We have 14 million for the second pipe to run through Sanibel to carry our wastewater, and we have an additional 25 million for an injection well, which brings the total cost now from what we thought was going to be 20 million to 75 million dollars, which is, in the judgment of all, probably not doable. You're up to a cost of $130,000 per property owner, which is probably not reasonable. I don't see property owners being willing to shell out $130,000 to get a central sewer system up and running. So our next step with Sanibel is to try to determine will there be significant funding opportunities out there that could bring these costs down dramatically, public funding opportunities. And then secondly, a big part of why Sanibel is having to increase its capacity to carry our wastewater is that a lot of Sanibel's sewer system is being used to get rid of excess flood water. And it might be that if Sanibel could clamp down on this process of property owners using the sewer system to rid themselves of excess flood water, if that practice could be stopped or significantly reduced, then it might reduce the need for the additional pipe and the injection well. So we need to pursue that possibility and the possibility of of uh, getting grant money so that we can bring the cost of sewer down to the individual property owner closer to $20 million that we originally thought it was going to be. Now, meanwhile, while all of this is going on, Kimley Horn on their own has taken a crack at designing a plan to make the FGA plant at South Seas long-term resilient. And if you could make the South Seas plant, the FGA plant, long-term resilient, that might allow you to have the FGA plant process the wastewater rather than have Donax process the wastewater. And in the process of making the South Seas plant long-term resilient, that would be a very significant benefit to property owners that now have central sewer inside of South Seas. So if you're spending money to make the FGA plant long-term resilient, now I think you bring in South Seas property owners into the process to pay for a portion of the project. So it might be that we could revert back to looking at South Seas and making that plant resilient as a way of reducing, the cost per property. So that needs to be pursued further. And I think for us to go anywhere on that avenue, we're going to have to get commitment from Lee County to really want to pursue this question of how sustainable is the South Seas plant, given, its present location in a mangrove area. So I don't know, that's a lot for you all to chew on. I'll be happy to try to, answer questions or repeat things to make it clearer.
No, I think people get it. I think you've been making it very clear over a long period of time, and I hope the panel and the community understands it. I think that the only thing I would add, Jay, is that to make the FGUA plant at South Seas more resilient would be an expensive proposition in its own
Yeah.
right.
Right. It's 25 million was their
At least 20.
outside effort.
Right. So it's not like the cheap option. And
Well,
maybe,
what it really does is the cost is about the same as with Sanibel, but you're going to be doubling the number of properties.
Yeah, and plus our 36 million should go down significantly because we're not running a pipe from Captiva all the way to Donax, right?
Right.
so it may be an interesting option to pursue, whether DEP or the Army Corps of Engineers would allow, because it would also require an expansion of the FGUA plant, not just a resiliency option, but an expansion, not a hardening option, but an expansion to basically double the capacity of that.
Yeah, I did. Well, again, the South, the Kimley Horn estimate was, and again, this was just a ballpark, very top of mind estimate to expand the capacity and harden the plant was 25 million. And you're comparing that to 14 million for an additional line through Sanibel, building a $25 million deep injection well. And you would also no longer have to make the connection between Donax or Turner Beach and Sea Spray, which would be an $8 million savings.
Right. And then there's the also question of whether the $25 million associated with the deep injection well, which may also be used by island water and may be necessary for Sanibel in any case, may be reduced for the Captiva contribution. So there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, it's just very hard to, they're just unknowns in each direction you go. So it's a very complex project.
Okay, I think that brings everybody up to date. Are there any more questions for Jay?
No. Anything
from the audience, Ken?
No, there's not.
Okay, and I just want to remind us that Marguerite has been pounding us for months about an alternative septic system that would mitigate possibly the need for central sewer. Marguerite, we will look into that.
Yeah, that's right. I want to apologize to Marguerite. I have not, followed through on that as I should have, Marguerite.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's a possibility, and I mean, I do believe in public sewer, but I really think for especially the one part of Captiva, it might be a good solution. So
Okay.
we'll see.
We'll see.
Let me add in there. I did spend some time when she originally brought it to our attention, probably maybe 2 years ago, and I looked at it, and it doesn't work for like my commercial application, but it certainly does work for a home. And if I need to redo my home, I will definitely look into it, and it's affordable as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the downside of it, is that it would not help Twin Waters, it wouldn't help Captiva Shores, it wouldn't help Sunset Captiva, it wouldn't help in your commercial properties, because where you have packaged plants or quasi packaged plants, this system probably wouldn't work for that. So you would need central.
Well, the other question is, will that system, Marguerite, protect us somehow from rising groundwater levels?
She can't answer that, but that's a question we'd have to look at.
Yeah, well, it depends on how much water levels will rise. Absolutely. Yeah.
Marguerite, could you send me an email with the information you have on that? And
Yeah, yes. And Jay, I invite you to stop by. We have one of these systems.
okay.
And what it really is, it's a miniature water treatment center built for private homes. It needs electricity to function. The water is actively aerated by pumping air into it. So the masses break down faster. And when they are broken down, you put them through perforated hoses onto your property. You irrigate with them and of course you need another pump for that.
Right.
That's
Okay.
pretty much how they work.
Okay. Thank you, Marguerite. And again,
Yeah.
my apologies for not following through on that as quickly as I should have.
Apologies accepted.
I got a note from Mike Bennett saying that there's nothing new on the infrastructure committee update. And then I just have two announcements before we get to the development committee. One is, I've been told, and just so people know this, we had a long presentation from Island Water, and John Rosen's on the board. We had a long presentation from Island Water at the last meeting where they had proposed that they will be proposing a 21% compounded increase in rates over the next 3 years. And my understanding is they may have an opportunity to get some grants in, which would then allow them to reduce that 21% increase each year for 3 years. And they're in the process of evaluating those grants and those grant opportunities. So they my understanding is that the 21% may not be the reality at the end of the day. So I just want to let people know that it may be less than that based on the grants that they were able to acquire. John, does that sound right? I mean,
let me just add something to that. The association has withdrawn their submission for the rate increase at 21% per year for the next 3 years, and will resubmit a petition sometime in early 26. And you're correct, David, as a result of a large number, two grants that were unexpected that will affect the proposed rate increase. Raftalis is currently going through the evaluation and will be presented to the board at some time in the near future, looking to go back to the Sanibel City Council with a new rate increase.
That's great. Thank you, John. And the other announcement is the vote is in on the two panel members, and the vote of the panel is unanimous in support of Jay Brown and Bob Randall. So congratulations to Jay Brown and Bob Randall as new panel members starting in January of 2026. Okay, Development Committee, Marguerite.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone that participated and at the Welcome Back Cruise, and of course the sponsors. And I like the panel. When you eat at Twin Waters or at Key Lime Bistro or RC Otters at the Sunshine Cafe or Cantina Captiva, or you go to Bank of the Islands, or you take a cruise, let those people know that you appreciated what they've done for us as our sponsors.
Yeah.
The cruise was very nice, and Ken will let us know how successful we were financially.
The
yeah.
The cruise brought in a little over $8,000 against expenses of a little over $1,000. Most of that was covering the bar cost for Captiva Cruises. Captiva Cruises paid for the boat and the gas, and they just requested that we cover the bar. So a net of about $7,000.
Okay.
And my understanding, Ken, is that the letter asking for support to the panel did go out. Do you want to report on that?
Yes, the first version has gone out to the email list. It will go out again later this week. And since then, we have brought in about $15,000, including a very generous donation from Keith and Pam Browning. We have gotten a number of other contributions, and as I said, I'll get it out at least once, if not twice more, before the end of the year.
Great. All right. Marguerite did a great job working with Ken on the cruise. It went very smoothly. The weather was gorgeous. The food was delicious. And the only question I have is whether we want to maybe do this a little later in the year, next year when more people are back, because it was such a, and I thought that more people would probably have liked to have been on it. And we had people.
We had a problem this time because I have to look at everyone else's dates, and also Captiva Cruises has only certain dates available. But I easily agree with it. For next year, we'll look and push it a little more into the middle of December.
Well, maybe, Marguerite, you might look holding it like the second week of January. I think when we have maximum population.
The only problem with January is the weather is iffy.
Yes, true. That's right. The longer you wait, the bigger the chance the weather will be bad.
Yeah, we really had fantastic weather. It was perfect. And I mean, there is inside seating, but I'm not saying no, it can't be done in January. I will think about it. Or we will, yeah. Then for the fundraiser in February, everyone please keep your calendars marked. February 13th is the event at the CCA with musical entertainment and some storytelling, some local stories.
That was January 13th, did you say?
Yes, it's Friday, February the 13th.
February 13th.
The night before Valentine's Day.
What time will it be?
5 to 7, I think, or 5:30 to 7:30. I think that is a good time for most people.
Okay.
That way we have I have to look at the sunset. I would like a little bit of a sunset in there, but 5:30 to 7:30 should work.
And you're going to have a flute player too?
Yes, Cat Apple is a flute player, and she plays a lot of different flutes from all over the world.
Mm-hmm. It sounds lovely.
Yeah, I think it will be a very lovely evening. I'm working on sponsors for it as we speak, and yeah, so I think it will be another very nice community event. Mm-hmm. And then I noticed that our website has a captiva.com instead of .org, because we are a nonprofit. So when we renew the what is it called? Yeah, I would like to go, if everyone agrees, I would like to go with captivacommunitypanel.org.
Can you, I don't know, this is above my pay grade in understanding what Marguerite's talking about. So
I think we own .org. I think we started out .com because it was the first one we could get, but I believe we own the variations of it, and .org redirects to .com. We can change what the lead domain name is, but I want to confirm that we actually own all the ones that I think we do.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, okay. Please do. I think when people look at it, they see right away that it's a nonprofit. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I wanted to suggest that.
All right, we'll talk about this offline and bring it back to the panel.
Yeah,
Anything
good.
else? Anything else, Marguerite?
No, actually, that's it for today.
Okay, Ken, the 2026 panel meeting schedule.
In your packet are the dates following the usual pattern, as well as the CAPD approved schedule. You'll notice there are a couple of weeks, or a couple of months, excuse me, where they are not on the same week due to the peculiarities of the calendar. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same that we have done as are required by our bylaws.
Leaving aside CPD, we're still the second Tuesday of every month, correct?
Yeah, sometimes CPDs, their first Monday, their second Monday, or their Monday hits a different week than ours.
But that's not why is that a problem?
It used to be when we had a lot of common members, people were trying to get the meetings on the same week for travel, but that seems to be less and less of a problem.
Okay.
I'm just raising it for anybody who has to deal with both meetings.
Okay, all right.
So that will be put into place and be advertised appropriately.
Okay, perfect. Does anybody have a problem with keeping it at second Tuesday of each month, like it's been for the last 20 years?
Nope, not me.
Not me.
Great. Okay, you have the 2026 panel budget on there?
Yeah, put together a draft straw man to start working against with some numbers in there, including support for ongoing projects, since I assume the panel wants to continue to have some money available to donate. I have a couple of blanks that I would like some feedback on when time permits, including legal fees. We haven't put anything in this month or this year. And I kept the fundraising obviously pretty low because it's still going to be challenging, as Protect Captiva needs to be funded as vigorously as possible until this episode is over. So any thoughts or comments from the panel members on these numbers or things that they'd like to see funded or not funded?
Well, I think you should cap the legal fees at 20,000 total.
For next year?
No. So it'll be additional 3,000 and whatever it is for.
Yeah, so that'll help. If you have that bill, get it to me so I can try to get it paid this year and keep it in this year's budget.
Yeah, people aren't going to study it now. So why don't everybody take a look at the budget and see if we can approve it at the January meeting? Does that make sense, Ken?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a note of that. And email Ken with any thoughts you had about any items. Don't have communication among yourselves, but just you can send something to Ken and he'll put it all together. Are there any initial questions right now that people want to raise or just wait? Okay, I have an issue. Do we want the CCA has made their facility available for us for our meetings if we want to hold them here. So we could hold a meeting starting in January at the CCA and then try to hold a hybrid meeting where people could see the panel discussing, or we could bring our own computer. And it would look like it looks as it does on the screen right now, but we would be in the same room. So I'm just curious whether people like the Zoom meetings or whether we should try to move it to in-person meetings with a Zoom capability, which they have now at the CCA for Tuesdays. I'd be curious how people feel.
I would very much like a hybrid meeting at the CCA. I like in person.
Could we do every other month? Because I have a conflicting meeting that I'm able to Zoom in and I have to get to Naples. So I probably would Zoom call in, but I don't know if we have, because I think we've had issues in the past when we try to have an in-person meeting and then
Yeah.
can't hear.
Personally like an in-person meeting, but could you clarify something on the Zoom capabilities of the CCA? when I've watched on Zoom other meetings that have been held at the CCA, it's very difficult, the acoustics, to listen on Zoom at a meeting held in that large room. Were you inferring that it's been improved, or it just has the capability still to Zoom at the current level that I'm aware of?
Yeah, it is. My understanding is they've upgraded their audio and visual systems. I can't tell you whether they would work. I think if we were all in the same meeting and had our computers there in front of us, it would still look like it looks now, but we would be in the same rooms, so you could make snide remarks to the person sitting next to you if desired.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm going to talk. What I'm going to do is I want to talk with Ken, and Ken, I'll need you to talk to the CCA people, and maybe we come down here one day and see what it looks like and how it would work.
There may be an issue with feedback.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if we had all of our computers in the same room, we'd all be picking up each other's sound. That could get to be
I see.
challenging. But I'm happy to talk to the CCA. I don't know what improvements they have made, but I know some were planned, and we can see if their capacity would allow a functioning hybrid meeting.
Okay.
I would like to be in person if possible.
Yeah.
Me too.
I mean, what we have, if we have 42 people, for example, on the call, it's got to be set up in a way that the 42 still can clearly hear us, understand us. There's something very intimate about this. We see everybody's faces, you see everybody's reactions to what people say. I used to watch some of the CEPD meetings, and you would see John, you would see the panel, the CEPD people in the background, sort of far away, and you couldn't really see them talking. You would hear them. So at the last CEPD meeting, for example, John was on Zoom, and you could see John, you hear him, it's clear, it's intimate, but the other people who are in the room, they're far away, and it's hard to really get a feel for that, and it's difficult to hear, which I think is what John Rosen was saying. So, I mean, we got to figure this out. I think the most important thing is for people to be able to hear us and feel part of the meeting. And if meetings and hybrid meetings make that harder, then we have to take that into consideration. Okay, so we will have some communication about this before the January meeting. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But we definitely have a January meeting for the second Tuesday in January. Panel members and comments. Are there any comments from panel members before we adjourn?
No.
I'd like to thank Marguerite again for the event we had. I've taken family to it twice. They think it's all magical. I don't know how and like my little grandson saw the baby dolphin. Okay, he's in love with dolphins now. And I took people, who'd never been out on the Lady Chadwick. So I'd just like to thank you, Marguerite, and say from my family's perspective, it was a marvelous event.
Yeah. Right.
And the fact that the Captiva Cruises allowed us to do that at their cost is really quite generous. Any comments from the audience before we adjourn, Ken?
There are none.
Okay. Nothing more to say. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
It's
Okay.
not it's not even 10:30. We can't stop.
10:31. I try to have the meetings over by 10:30. We're 1 minute.
Yeah.
Is there a second to adjourn?
Second to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Okay, we all wish everybody a very, very happy new year. And we'll see you after the new year. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay wonderful. You guys are great.
Thank you. See you, David.
Thank
Bye.
you.
David. Thank you.
Yeah.